A point-like negatively charged particle with a mass m and charge minus q is initially released from rest at point P along the positive z-axis. The particle is constrained so that it only moves in a z direction, and its motion along that axis is determined by the electric attraction of the ring, which is positively charged, and we can ignore gravity. Point P is the point where the magnitude of the electric field along the positive z-axis has its largest value. What is the ratio of the vertical distance to point P to the radius of the ring? So given that the largest magnitude of the electric field is at point P, then we have the condition where the derivative of the electric field with respect to z is equal to 0. So first we want to find the electric field, so we take a charge dq, being a differential charge element, and this element has a radial vector to some point along the axis. So this charge element produces an electric field pointing radially away from it. So the net electric field at some point along the z-axis is Coulomb's constant by the integral over the charge, and we're integrating the reciprocal of the squared distance of the charged element to the point we're looking at by the vector in the direction of the electric field. So using vector addition, we have a vector from the origin to the source of the charge, and a vector from the origin to the point along the z-axis. And if we substitute for the differential charge, we get k by the integral of dq, which using geometry, where this angle is d theta, we have the linear charge density by the length of that charge element, which is r d theta. And we have the radial vector from the source to point P using the coordinate system of r hat pointing radially outwards from the ring, k hat points in a z direction, and theta hat is tangent to the ring. So this is the cylindrical coordinate system. So we can write this vector as the vector sum of minus rs plus rp. So we have minus r in the radial direction plus z in the k direction. So the squared magnitude of this vector is r squared plus z squared. So noting this vector is a radial vector of the cylindrical coordinate system, whereas this vector is a direction vector from the source to point P. And likewise, this is the squared magnitude of the radial vector to the source to point P. So the unit direction vector is minus r hat, plus z in the k direction, and this vector is normalized by the magnitude of this vector. So that with the square root of r squared plus z squared, which goes in the denominator, so we end up with this term to the power of 3 on 2. Now by symmetry, if we take another differential charge element on this side of the ring, then that's going to produce an electric field pointing in that direction. So the differential charge elements on opposite sides of the ring are going to produce electric fields that cancel the tangent components to the ring and the radial components to the ring. So our net electric field is going to point in the vertical direction. So by our symmetry argument, the integral in the radial direction is going to evaluate to 0, and what we're left with is k by lambda by r by z on r squared plus z squared to the 3 on 2, and we're integrating over theta. From theta is equal to 0 all the way around the ring to 2 pi. And the electric field points in the k direction. And now if we evaluate the integral and write the linear charge density as the total charge on the circumference of the ring, then we get kq on 2 pi r by 2 pi r, which cancels, and z on r squared plus z squared to the 3 on 2. So that's our electric field in the k direction. So now let's remove this So taking the derivative of the magnitude of E with respect to Z, we get KQ, which are constant, and using the quotient rule, we have the low term being R squared plus Z squared to the 3 on 2, by the derivative of the high term, which is 1, minus the high term, by the derivative of the low term, which gives 3Z by R squared plus Z squared to the 1/2. And that's divided by the square of the term in the denominator. And setting the derivative to 0, and then multiplying through by this term, and dividing through by this term, we end up with the term in the numerator being R squared plus Z at point P squared, where the electric fields are maximum, to the 3 on 2, minus 3ZP squared, by R squared plus ZP squared, to the 1/2. And then dividing through by this term, and taking 3ZP squared to the left hand side, we get R squared plus ZP squared on the right hand side. So therefore 2ZP squared is equal to R squared, which gives ZP on R is 1 on root 2. So that's part A, and we'll use the result in the next part of the problem. Take the mass and charge of the particle to be the given values, and we're also given a charge and radius of the ring and Coulomb's constant. And what is the speed of the particle when it reaches the origin? And we're given a hint to use the Work-Energy Theorem. So recall that we had the ring, and the particle was at some distance above the ring on the z-axis from the origin. So because the ring is positively charged and the particle is negatively charged, then the particle moves against the direction of the electric field. So the electric force points downwards. So the work integral is the electric force being the electric field by the charged particle. So we have Z on R squared plus Z squared to the 3 on 2 integrated over Z. And we're integrating from Z equals ZP to Z equals 0. So essentially, the limits of integration account for the direction that we're integrating in. So dz points downwards, and the electric force is negative because Q is negative. So the work done by the electric force on the particle is positive, as it's moving in the direction of the electric force. And that's equal to 1/2 by the mass of the particle by the square of the speed. Noting that in the problem, the particle starts from rest. So using U substitution, we have U is equal to R squared plus Z squared. So du is 2Z dz, and we can rewrite this integral as KQ by Q by the integral from U is equal to R squared plus ZP squared. So we change the limits of integration. So this limit becomes R squared plus 0 squared, and we have Z dz is 1/2 du on U to the 3 on 2. And now we can evaluate this integral, which is U to the minus 1/2 on minus 1/2. So what we get is 2 on root U. So we have minus K by Q, where the 2's cancel, and 1 on root U, evaluated at R squared plus ZP squared, and R squared. So we can substitute our result into the Work-Energy Theorem. So we have minus KQ by Q by 1 on root R squared minus 1 on the square root of R squared plus ZP squared. And now we can solve for the speed by multiplying through by 2 and dividing through by m and taking the square root of the result. So we end up with the following expression. So as you can see, in the brackets, the first term is larger than the second term, and Q is negative, so we get a positive result in a square root. And you can substitute these values and get the speed of the particle, noting that we obtained an expression for ZP in part A. And we'll copy the electric field when doing part C. Suppose that instead of releasing the charged particle at point P, we release it from a point on the z-axis just above the center of the circle, at a position of Z0, where Z0 is much smaller than the radius of the ring. The particle will then execute simple harmonic motion along the z-axis, and what's the period t of that motion? And we're told we'll need a Taylor expansion, so for z being much smaller than the radius of the ring, the Taylor expansion for the force about the origin is given as follows. So given that the particle's negatively charged and the ring's positively charged, the electric force acts downwards, and it's equal to the electric field by the charge Q. So given the charge is negative, the force points downwards. So for a very small value of z, we can neglect the higher order terms. And when z equals 0, we have f of 0 is equal to 0. So we can approximate the force using the first order term. So taking the derivative of the electric force with respect to z, we have kq by q being constant, and using the quotient rule, we have the lower term being r squared plus z squared to the 3 on 2 by the derivative of the higher term, which is 1, and minus the upper term by the derivative of the lower term, which is 3z squared by r squared plus z squared to the 1/2 over the square of the term in the denominator. So we have r squared plus z squared, and that's cubed. And evaluating the derivative at z equals 0, then this term is 0, and this second term is 0. And this term in the denominator is also 0. So we end up with the force as a function of z is equal to this derivative, which is k by q by r cubed on r to the power of 6. So r cubed goes in the denominator, and multiply by z. And the force is equal to the mass by the acceleration of the particle, being the second derivative of z with respect to time, and dividing through by m, and then subtracting the force from both sides, we get the second derivative of z with respect to time, minus k by q on mr cubed by z is equal to 0. And to write this in the form of simple harmonic motion, we know the charge is negative, so we can take the magnitude of this charge and put a plus here. And therefore this expression is the square of the angular frequency of oscillation, and recall the period of the oscillation is 2 pi on omega. So using the values given in part B, you'll be able to work out the period and post your answer in the comments or any questions you have, as this is a challenging problem.